Welcome everyone. We're going to be waiting for a few more minutes for more people to join. But we're here with wonderful artists, Eva Davidova and Lorin Roser, and we're going to start our panel very soon.
Also, this panel, we are going to be recording it. So even though we love seeing everyone's faces, if you don't want to be recorded or if you don't want to appear on the camera, you can turn off your camera, but we always love to see everyone. We will have the recording after the panel, and we will share with everyone that we'll send it out in our newsletter. Oh, and we're having a little bit of a problem here with. Okay. So I think we'll give it a few more minutes and then we will start. It's very exciting to have you all here today. Hello. So I think we'll give it a few more minutes and then we'll get started.
Hey, Lorin and Eva.
Hey, Brian, it's been so long. So good to see you here.
I love your place. Very spacious.
Totally virtual.
Thank you for joining. We'll be waiting for a couple more minutes for more people to join, and we'll start very soon.
Light on your face. Hey, Jimmy.
Nice hat, Lorin.
Thanks.
Where are you? At home?
New York, yeah.
Studio. Well, all right, I'll get Margaret in here at some point.
Cool.
I'm gonna shut myself off.
Okay. So I think.
You think we can start?
I think we should start and we'll just admit.
And we'll be admitting people as they come. I think that's fair.
I think that is great. So thank you so much all for joining us. We're very excited about this conversation today. Just a quick reminder that we will be recording this panel. So we just tell you that if you don't want to see your face, we love to see it. But if you don't, you can just turn your camera off. So today we're very lucky to have the amazing artists Lorin Roser and Eva Davidova for this panel. I'm just gonna introduce you. So Lorin Roser is a Chinese-American, New York-based multifaceted animator, painter, musician, and multimedia artist. As an architect and artist, his animation work uses random manipulations to explore a world of hitherto unseen shapes and structural possibilities. And right now, Lorin has a solo show titled Escape at Gallery 456 in New York City that will be running from March 18th to March 30th. So if you're in New York, we really encourage you to go and see it. And later, Lorin will tell us more about his show. And we have the amazing Eva Davidova, who is a Spanish-Bulgarian multidisciplinary artist, also based in New York. The issue of her work is behavior, cruelty, ecological disaster, and manipulation of information emerge as paradoxes rather than assumptions in an almost fairy tale fashion. Her practice involves drawing, performance, interactive installations, and participatory VR, computer-generated 3D sculpture, and photo-based animation. We've also at CADAV here, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Andrea Steurer, and I'm the director of CADAV, and I'm joined today by Elena Savelev, the CEO and founder of CADAV. And we've had the honor to have Eva and Lorin participate in our art fairs, and we've always enjoyed spending time with you and seeing your work. So very exciting for us today. So today's talk is titled Imperfect Worlds, and it's a panel exploring strategies for creating imperfections and anomalies in fantasy digital worlds to replicate reality more reliably. As we struggle to vacation during the pandemic, artists create virtual worlds animated by extraordinary architectural abilities and unconventional forms born from mathematical constructs and codes. New advances in technology allow interactions and real-time ray tracing, hybrid, digitally constructed, and videographic presentations allow for novel experiences in documenting the exodus into virtual spaces. So I think we have a lot to cover today. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass it on. Let's do Eva. We can start with Eva. If you can tell us a little bit about yourself, about your practice, and share some of your work with us, and then we'll pass it on to Lorin.
Thank you so much, Elena and Andrea. I'm so happy to be here and an honor to be with Lorin and talk about his work later. Maybe I can share my screen so while I talk, I show some of the work. I always say that my work is in the intersection between the visceral, the political, and the paradoxical, because I think, and playing with one of these paradoxes, I imagine us as being built by our descendants, human or cyborg or chimeras, and pose a question. If we are the games our children will program one day, can we influence the code they're writing? Can we pull the genes of another reality into this one? The images you'll see later now are a part of a broader, bigger body of work, and I will just mention a few of them, and then I will concentrate on the work right now on my screen, which is called Global Mode. From the early 2000s to around 2015, I've been exploring the relationship of the body, and architecture, light, and slowly but surely their entanglement with data. Data in space, it's as public space, as a building, as a square, and it has the same effects on our behaviors and our intentions. In 2017, I started a project called Intentions, Transfer and Disappearance, where my studies of the entanglement of body and public space, architecture and data became more and more concentrated on the emotions, on the intention behind the studying, the simulation, and the extraction of our emotions. Intentions, Transfer and Disappearance 2 is about the hijacking of our emotions and the possibility of the capacity that glitch and failure can give us to undermine these technologies and to make them work in another way. Who has been excluded, who has been averaged, who has been returned as a model of themselves, that they are not who owns our emotions. Working with these issues, I think almost naturally led me to do interactive work, because the emotions, the gestures, and the continuous interactions we give to big data, to corporations, and to daily interactions with the world around us can have a completely different playful purpose to understand the technologies through our bodies, to understand them perceptually rather than intellectually, and start working with them, not in order to augment our senses, to augment our capacity, and not to have it hijacked and be the base for oppression. These are some images of a very complicated performance I did last year, which I won't talk now. But this brings me to another multi-year project I've been working on called Global Mode. It started from kind of desperation, kind of broken heart from all the horrors that are happening in the world, the inaction towards climate change, the outsourcing of cruelty, the normalization of extraction from human beings, from animal beings, from everything. In this project, mythologies crept in, and they gave me a lot of energy to work with phantasmagorical animals in existing spaces and move through spaces. For me, movement is one of the most important things that I can do as an artist, and one of the things that we can share, which during the pandemic obviously has been very, very put into question. How do we move through digital spaces, how we move with others, how we perceive the movement of others in the digital spaces. A few years ago, with very little resources, but with great people around me, I was able to complete a VR installation, site-specific, for 2 different spaces, for New York and for Miami. And in it, the issues closer to my heart were mixed in a kind of mixing of rules of different games that apparently have nothing in common, but intuitively they're mixed in a playground where we can invent new actions and see other possibilities of juxtaposing issues. Can you hear my sound? No. So just allow me a second. Right. In this installation, this version was from New York. In this installation, people were able to be both in a physical space with huge immersive prints and in the VR, in a space where usually drawing models work. So we hired these drawing models to be part of the audience. And it was very interesting to see the relationship of people later with the animals who they could control and with the people who were in the space but were not controllable by the second layer of audience. I'm always very interested in layering and confusing who is performer, who is not, and what are the affordances, what are the actions possible in a certain space. As I mentioned before, movement is very important in my work, and it was really with pleasure to see how different people are moving. And my quest is to augment these differences and to bring them together, being different instead of classifying and trying to put the movements or expressions or gestures into certain paths and closed compartments. I think that the more different, the more rich and the more entangled the movements and the behaviors are, the more dance of agency can be achieved, where there is no top-down or down-up only direction, but a continuous rhizomatic influence of one to the other and to the rest. And I do think that if we are trying to do something humanistic, it has to be also animal-centered, plant-centered, star-centered, everything. Global Mode was a Global Mode play was a project commissioned by Issue Project Room, and it had a lot of very convoluted difficulties. One of them was to do really a performance online during the pandemic. And I took the opportunity to investigate what can be done without using the usual keyboards, mouse, texting, words, interactions. So the end result, I can put the link in the chat, but the end result was a mixture between 360 video, many times filmed by the performers by themselves with the camera, and 3D animals and layering of spaces penetrating each other, and then the audience from their computers, through their webcams, through movement, were affecting the performance and creating kind of swarms and flocks of animals. It is based on 3 pseudo-mythological stories: Prometheus herding Pegasus, Narcissus and drowning animals, and Cassandra law witness objects, which pays homage to the Black Lives Matter movement. And now I can show you just a couple of minutes of the documentation of the opening night, and I will end there. Can you hear sound? Here as well, you could move and you could stop. stop the music of that. So
Thank
that,
you.
you're welcome.
No, that was amazing, beautiful work. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So
Thank
maybe
you.
I'll pass it on to Lorin now, if you want to talk about your practice, your current show that's happening right now, and share your screen to show us some of your work.
Sure. I have a show in New York at Gallery 456 on presently until the 30th. I'm an architect and musician. So my work has been really influenced by performance art, which is something I've seen in Eva's work as well. I've been very fascinated by the feedback from real-time improvisation, and it affects my work. And recently, technologically, it's been possible to do real-time interactive work on the computer, which has been a great boon, a great joy for architects, because it used to take days to render stuff before you could even see the structures you'd created, the design. And architecture really needs to be realized in time. It's not an instantaneous thing. It's something that you take in over time. So one of the problems with digital work, sort of like digital music, it's too perfect and there's not enough variation. They call that the uncanny valley, when something seems like it's real, but there's something about it that bothers you, that it's just too perfect. So I've been trying recently to develop new strategies to create imperfections in the work, adding noise to textures, adding stochastic strategies to create difference in the work. And I'd like to share an example, a short example of this. So, if you hold on just a minute. Oh, well. Let's see, just a second, sorry. There are different mathematical methods for creating variety in the work. So also, I've been experimenting with real-time ray tracing. There's new technology that allows the light to be shown in real time and rather accurate reflections and things that were not available years ago. Just this year, there's been an explosion in technology that allows this to occur, so that all the variations of light in reality are simulated. Another strategy that I've used is using physical simulations to create variety and change. Yes,
You want to share your screen with us so that we can see the work? I don't think we're
course.
seeing it right now.
Sure.
Or if you can want to send us the file and we can share it while you are speaking, that's also fine. That's more convenient. But no rush.
Was that visible?
Not yet. I think you need to click share screen and then like click to share your entire desktop so that we can all see your screen. And if there's sound, we can all hear the sound.
Okay, sorry.
And for everyone that, in case you didn't see, I shared in the chat the link to Lorin's current show. So you can see it there, and hopefully if you're in New York, you can visit.
Lorin, when you share the screen, just make sure you share the whole desktop and not this different application or something.
Oh, I see.
Because sometimes happens that Zoom takes only one screen, and just make sure it's the whole desktop.
Or if you want, we can share the works later with over the email.
I thought it
Oh,
was.
I think it's working. Excellent.
It's working now?
There it is. Thank you.
Sorry.
But we just see your Word document right now. So now we need to, I guess.
How about now?
No, still see just the Word document. So you just shared, I guess, just what Eva was saying. You shared Word maybe, but sorry, a little bit.
Yeah.
Tech,
Okay. Sadly.
thanks. How to help you? Maybe, yeah, if you want to send us something we can share, or we can share later. What you do is share a screen, and there, I guess, desktop. It shows up as the first step in your share screen at the bottom of your screen.
Is my screen showing now?
It's just showing the Word document. Worked before when we practiced. If Lorin shares the screen, I don't think he will be able to see his notes. Yeah, that could be the case. So what shall we do? Maybe we just ask you. Andre.
I have Lorin's website that maybe I can share your website so that we can see some of your work.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Andrew.
why not? I think that would be great. Maybe if you could share the website, and Lorin, if you can continue speaking about the work, and we also have a few questions that we wanted to ask you.
Great.
Sure. Thanks.
So here, just let me know which ones you want me to open, and I'll
Okay,
open.
this one on the top left, HackOpolis. This is a piece I added 2 lines of recursive code to a sort of empire building software to create these forms. And it's all done in code to create these shapes. The name of the piece is HackOpolis. And if you go on the upper part of the screen to videos, and play this Paris gravure. This is my first attempt to create a sort of Duchampian repetition. I think of sort of post-neo-Dadaism, where there's art and anti-art, as we try to establish a new kind of art and break down the barriers of old traditions to create something new. And I see it now as being divided into virtual and real. So a lot of my artwork is hybrid, where it combines digital with real footage.
It's beautiful.
And the one below is as well. This is real-time ray tracing. So this just comes out of a gaming engine, straight out of a gaming engine, with all the reflections and shadows and the play of light. As a musician, I play improv music. So the real time has really been delightful because the music, the things I've learned from music, I'm able to apply to the 3D work. And in music, I love working with synthesizers because they defeat muscle memory. So often when playing guitar, I just come up with the same riff, but using synthesizers, it creates a new, novel way of creating things and lets me do new things. And the real-time feedback has been great. My partner, Nina Ko, is a photographer and multimedia artist. And she was able to give me real-time feedback as an art director once the 3D work was incorporated in the gaming engine. So that was a real breakthrough for me.
Lorin, I have a question. So you're using a gaming engine in creating the works. The works are not interactive though, right? They're not games just yet.
No, some of them are actually. I have if we go back to the stills on my webpage, here under digital images, I guess. Yeah. Here, this replicator wind on the upper right. This work is actually interactive. You press on an object and then it begins to replicate itself in a Duchampian kind of way.
That's very interesting. So a collector would be able to interact with the work then.
Yes, and each time you walk through it, you could activate different structures so that the work would be different. It could be different each time you go through it. Yeah. Okay. Now on this piece on the upper right, this is sort of a 3D distortion of a suburban image.
This one?
Yes. And it's sort of a way of taking something that's very usual and making it unusual, seeing another aspect to it. And a lot of my work is influenced by thinking that we may be forced to leave the planet. I mean, this last year has brought that home to us, that humanity is very fragile and things could happen that would force us to leave. So I want to create a kind of iconic architecture that could be psychologically satisfying if we have to move to someplace like Mars, because it's so stark and so different from our frame of reference on Earth. I see a need for a new kind of architecture that can be sort of fulfilling aesthetically and psychologically, as well as utilitarian.
Okay. Yeah, we had a lot of these pieces participated in Kadav that we were so happy to have. I believe Replicator Wind and Space Barn also. And we also had this one participate in Miami.
Yes, I remember that was such a wonderful thing. Enjoyed that so much.
Yes. So I know Elena has some questions for you, unless you want to tell us something else about your work, or we can start a little bit of a conversation.
Sure, please, go ahead.
Yeah, so to both of you, both Eva and Lorin, you mentioned that performance art plays a big part in your work. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that and share how performance art is really a part of your practice.
Sure. I recently did an international art piece with the performance artist Stell Ark called Rewired, where he was hooked up in a gallery in Perth for 5 days. And his video feed came from London, and I provided the audio feed from New York. So he was totally immersed in this twisted spatial digital environment. And meanwhile, his arm was attached to a robotic device controlled over the internet that was manipulated by the general public, forcing his body and his arm to move against his will. This was a very powerful piece.
Good question from the audience. Do you sell via NFTs? I'm sorry, I just had to get that one. Just because we're all about NFTs.
Sounds good.
Lord.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Yeah, maybe for Kadaf Online, we will try to make some good NFTs from this work. We are working on the new edition of the fair, and this time around we will be able to mint the works from some of our favorite artists. So really excited about that. I would love to own that NFT for sure. Eva, how about you? How is the performance art has been a part of your work? Tell us a little bit about it.
Thank you, Elena. I think I have several different ways in performance, but the most clear perhaps for me is the desire to affect the unconsciousness, that I think that through the unconsciousness one sees and changes in a different way. So for me, pushing the walls of reality was always something very important, like making reality with different affordances than we are taught to accept. The cement is not set, the rules are not given. So performance comes from the direct body impulse or intention to change the reality, whether it's through a stroke or through a very elaborate performance. For me always has to do with changing both the consistency of reality and the unconscious perception of it.
It's very interesting. Maybe as a follow-up to that, as performance is something that happens in real life, what is the connection between analog and digital in your work? Is there a lot of it? And how would you speak about it? Also to both of you, I guess, Lorin?
Yes,
okay.
Well, I like in music very often to combine the digital with the analog. And the analog has so much variety, like a drum hit. each time you strike a drum, it's a totally different sound and timbre. Whereas in early samplers, every time you hit the drum, it would be the same sound. Now they are developing strategies to increase the variation between the hits as the digital world becomes more and more like the analog. And as the pandemic continues, where there is a melding of the virtual and real worlds, so that our worlds are becoming part virtual. You know, it's embedded in people because of the technology. Let me
I
try.
completely, I completely agree with Lorin. And for me, there is not clear distinction between the two words. It's definitely, in my work, you can definitely see it as mixture and as attempt to confuse them even further. But it's already, as Lorin said, embedded in us.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it is, and I'm not sure if it's gonna go the other way anytime soon or at all. Probably not at this point. All right. So I guess we're now ready for some questions from the audience. I'm sure there is a lot to be discovered. If you want to let us know now, we are a very small group here, a rather small group. So even if you want to just raise your hand and I will unmute you, and if that's okay, and we can just ask your question to Lorin and Eva, if there is anything in particular. Yeah, Eva.
Can I ask a question? Well, I had 3 questions for Lorin, but maybe just we'll start with one. Could you talk a little bit more about the defeating of muscle memory? I love this expression and would love to know more.
Well, sure. When you play an instrument, you practice and rehearse, and you get into the habit of not even thinking what you're doing. I mean, sometimes this can be defeated by taking drugs. That's a traditional way that was often used. But also by changing instruments or playing an instrument that you're not familiar with, you become more attuned to listening to the emotion in your playing, or it could be 3D, creating something not automatically, but with more understanding of what it means emotionally. That's what I think of when I think of defeating muscle memory.
I love that. And I think it's so important because more and more we're put onto kind of oil tracks of what we're supposed to do all the time and what we're supposed to produce or to the outcome of our actions. So it's very wonderful, the idea to break these cycles and kind of defeat the muscle memory by doing something else, by doing it differently, by reconsidering it. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Eva, I'm wondering if you could talk some more about the political aspects of your work. I see you're very involved in a lot of different issues and feminist issues. So if you could describe some of your actions.
So I think I was politicized early on from my childhood. I had big contrasts of family. My maternal grandfather was declared enemy of the people because he was an anarchist in times of the regime, the dictatorship of the proletariat regime in Bulgaria. He was declared enemy because he was anarchist and sent to camps, etc. The other part of my family lived a very normal, very kind of honest way, and these two things clashed for me. How society can have this dualities. So I think and also my father was a political journalist. He traveled through the whole world, through Africa, Cuba, China, maybe one of the first, probably the first Bulgarian journalist to go to South Africa when all the problems, all the apartheid was like really horrendous. And I think I was taught always to take the side of the oppressed. So all the issues of extraction, of injustice, of racism, are just embedded in my body almost. It's not that I intentionally go and look for them and think about them. They are in my blood in a sense. And definitely I'm very interested in ecological disaster and how it's related to the other issues. I think one of my unique points is that all these issues are heavily related, that what we create as economic system, it doesn't only affect the poor and the rich here, it affects everything. It affects the future of every creature in Earth. And if we are cruel with the chicken, this gives us also ideological room to be cruel with others. And if we're extracting emotions from people on the street now, we'll be able to use these emotions back to direct their behavior tomorrow. Actually, it's been done now, not tomorrow. And that's why the political, it's in my work and even more in me as a person.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question.
You know, I have a great grandfather that worked on the railroad here in America, and he did not make it back to China. He got all this gold. He would have been a rich man had he returned, but something happened on the boat and he never made it back. And I have a piece with a railroad locomotive sort of dedicated to his memory.
Did you ever meet him?
No, great grandfather. No, never.
Oh.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah. I met two of mine.
Wow.
Well, all right. I think we have one follow-up question on the muscle memory that I will read. So the question is, do you think muscle memory also contributes to what we perceive as the artist's recognizable style, I guess? If the muscle memory contributes to what we perceive as the artist's recognizable style.
But I have a thought on this. I was recently listening to an architectural critic, and he was saying that you could tell what kind of software the architects were using because had such an influence on their work. And I guess that's kind of a mental memory or a technological software memory, you know?
Great. So I think we will be, let's wait for a couple more moments. Maybe you guys have a little more, some more questions to Eva and Lorin. Otherwise, yeah?
I wondered if I could try sharing the screen once more.
Why not? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It works.
Amazing.
Yay. That's the Stellark piece. So often with my
piece that was
wife, I've worked with performance artists.
Yeah, we love that piece.
Yeah, that's the piece Tang Lady, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Let me try again. Does this work?
We're seeing a slideshow right now. Yes. Oh, that works right.
So this piece is called Pagoda Mist, and it's in the gallery showing that's on now in Soho.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let me stop. Thanks.
No, thank you so much, Lorin and Eva. This was fantastic to learn. so much about your practice. And we have one last question from the audience. And so, is the imperfect world challenged in reality or just via art? Oh, that's a good question. So, what do you guys think?
I just want to say that art is reality, that there is such entanglement with everything, that art is definitely reality.
I think we can agree
I
with that.
think that's an amazing conclusion and beginning as well. Wonderful. Art is reality. And we're living through it every day, every moment. So I would like to thank again Eva and Lorin for joining this talk. This has been wonderful. It's been wonderful to reconnect with both of you. As a reminder, we are hosting our next virtual fair in June, and we hope to have Eva's and Lorin's work there, and we'll try our best to make it available as an NFT as well, because it's really fun, new way to collect, and we hope to be able to do that as well. It's great to see you all. We now host a lot of talks also on Clubhouse. So I don't know if any of you are on Clubhouse, please join us. We talk a lot about digital art and about the new technologies in digital art. So it's a pleasure to have you, and hope to be in touch with all of you soon. Thank you for showing us this beautiful art and sharing your thoughts with us. And,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Lena
you.
and
Thank
Andrea.
you so much. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for this occasion.
thank you. All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thank
See you
you.
guys soon. Bye bye.